agenda is to adopt the agenda. Are there changes since our last?
No, just moving.
Okay, and just a note on the agenda, there's going to be an executive session early. Maybe early in the meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We're going to have an executive session probably early in the meeting.
Oh.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda. Charlotte, thank you.
Second.
Linda, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment, seeing no public present, we'll skip that to the end. I'll take a motion to accept the minutes from the July meeting.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do you want to do the treasury report? That's my first. Or would you rather?
I just assume that get these other ones done.
Okay.
It's completely up to you. If there's other things that take priority, that's fine.
Definitely doesn't meet your priorities. So we are going to into executive session to address a potential legal issue.
It's potential litigation. It also has to do with lease negotiations that could affect value.
Okay.
That's the motion. I would make those two items.
Okay.
Can I ask that everyone speak up a little bit? I'm having a really
can't
hard
hear
time
you.
hearing.
I
think
couldn't
it's
hear you over
my
here.
So
own-
just an August
I don't know why we're having this. Can you
Okay.
just restate it for me?
So
Well,
the two reasons that we need to go into executive session are potential litigation and to address a lease discussion negotiation that could affect the value of that transaction.
Thank you.
Okay, someone would like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to go to executive session.
Right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anyone need to leave? Or we good?
That's up to you guys. I don't think so. I'm just
Okay.
going to start with you.
So next up is the treasurer's report and check register.
Is there anything else that you think you want my input on before I go down? No? I didn't see anything that jumped out to me on the agenda, but maybe other trustees have different thoughts. The tax cap override, perhaps?
Yeah, we can discuss that.
Okay.
Move that up on the agenda.
That might be good, because we're in a kind of, we're not quite there yet on the actual cap.
Yeah.
So some guidance there and how.
Well, so let me, are we out of executive session now?
Yes.
Yes.
So, as a general rule, we've talked about this before in the past, and it does lead to some absurdity, because of course the way that the statute is written is a little bit absurd. And it's complicated because of the fact that you guys are slightly off schedule because of your fiscal year. So it is important every March for you guys to override that tax cap, because it is impossible for you to do your calculations in March, because even though you collect with the school district, you are collecting for a budget that's on a fiscal year, calendar year basis. And so the tax cap growth factors that you need to do your calculation are not released by the state until November-ish, somewhere in there, later in the fall. Because they're released for the municipalities who are doing tax cap calculations for January. It may be a little earlier than November, but it's not available in March and May. So, so you can take a pretty good guess, and you can look at what's happening in the world, and you know what inflation's doing, but you can't do your number correctly. And so what that means is, if you don't do the override, and something unexpected happens with your growth factors, you could end up having a situation where you've needed to override and you didn't. Therefore, any money you collect in excess of the cap is unusable by you. You basically have to sit on it and return it to the taxpayers the next year. That's not a good situation. It doesn't help. It's a budgeting nightmare. It's no good. So we recommend to all of our library clients, not just APL, that you override the tax cap even in those years where you do not intend to go over it. And with a few exceptions, you have routinely gone up to it and not over it. That has nothing to do with the policy of, do you believe in the tax cap, do you not believe in the tax cap, is it a good thing for, for government and the economy or not? That's, again, I'm not editorializing about that, that's just practicality. There were 2 years where layered on top of the tax cap, the governor also had the circuit breaker rebates that were happening. So in the event that you were in a municipality that came in under the cap, the governor's office and the legislature set aside money to rebate people for the increases in the taxes because that municipality stayed within the tax. In those years, it was an element of this application for you to participate in those rebates that you certify that you had either passed a tax cap or never overridden it at all, or if it was overridden, you rescinded it prior to a certain point in the year. That statute is come and gone. It's not in place anymore. The rebates aren't happening anymore. So there's no statutory reason that you need to go back and revisit this. The real question is the optics of it. If you get to this point in the year and you know that indeed, okay, we were fine, we don't need to have the tax cap override, do you want to rescind it? I think that's purely optics. It doesn't matter, frankly, but that's the board's decision, and so that's the discussion that needs to be had. I frankly would just leave it alone because it serves some protective purpose, but if the board is so inclined to not have it, then you can rescind it.
I've been on the phone with the controller's office and I've done all the calculations and they've told us what the numbers are. The problem is that right now the tax and finance haven't published the numbers, but we're going to be within the override, so we'll be fine. But what she advised me to do.
You're going to be under the cap.
Under the cap, yeah.
Okay, even without the override.
Right. But my advice to Scott, and after speaking to the controller's office, is not to reverse the override until which time we get firm numbers on the website from the tax and finance, and then we can reverse it. But if you say we could just keep it over, in that 1 year when we hadn't reversed it, we had gotten pushback because of those tax rebates.
In those years it was important.
Yes.
Because if you hadn't done it, your portion couldn't be rebated to people. Whereas if you had rescinded the override, that small increase couldn't. That's not happening anymore. So now it is really just the small p political question of, is that important for this board to do that or not? I honestly think it's a non-issue, but it's your decision.
Yeah.
I just, that's the nature of it. What I don't want you to do is do it prematurely, because if you do it prematurely and the numbers come in wrong,
Right.
that's the headache that you're trying to avoid by doing it in the first place, So, maybe you'll know something by September or October. By October, you really should know something, because people are building their budgets based on fiscal year 19 at that point.
So we have till December of this year to rescind?
Theoretically, you can rescind in perpetuity. It's just, I think if you were trying to say, we now have clarity, there's no issue, our budget's about to start, we're rescinding, that would be the time.
I think what you're telling us is from now on, we should always pass the override and we don't have to worry about rescinding it.
I really don't think you have to worry about rescinding it. The reasons that you had to rescind it were those special bills because there were rebates being paid on that stuff.
Yeah.
Sir, can somebody give an update? Has anybody contacted the auditor in response to changing our fiscal year?
So we have had, I think, 2 meetings now with the auditors. They are currently writing something up for us to look over, just to see what the costs were and what they believe the process is going to be. I am going to, because this came up earlier today, I'm going to give them a call just for a gentle nudge. I was giving them their auditors, it's the summer, but it's probably time.
So out of the 2 meetings, do they have a general feeling? I know we've been talking whether there would be a long year or a short year. Do they have a feeling already on that?
No, not yet.
I don't think there's a question that has to be a short year. I don't think you'll be able to do a long year, because the system's not set up for a long year. OSC can't handle a long year. I think it's going to have to be a step year.
Okay.
I could be proven completely incorrect by the people who actually know, but I don't think that's going to be possible.
Most of the libraries that have done this, it's been a short year, and then one. And I think in the DLD reports, it's set up that way.
Any other question or comment about the tax cap rescindum? Any opinions on what Mary suggested? I agree that we should wait until we have the numbers because we don't want, I found recommended we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. So, any other thoughts? No? Okay. Thank you.
Sorry I have to run, something sort of unexpected came up family-wise, nothing bad, actually sort of good, but I have family unexpectedly in town, trying to get them to dinner and stuff, so, thank you, appreciate it, I'll see you in September, for the whole meeting even.
That's a song.
We're empty around this.
All right, so we're on to the treasurer's report and the check register. Anything?
Hi, Bob.
Thank you.
So we're halfway through the year, so that's the measure we can look at. Is there anything you want to point out, Mary, that you observed, or Allison?
Well, we're still, for the most part, running on budget. We're running under budget on salaries, but that's because we're under some positions that were in the budget. And over in IT, but they're aware. And in terms of checks, the only thing that might be of interest to the board would be that the check 8833 for it's only $985, and check 8857 for LaCourte. That's to move the IT department within the third floor. So that was electrical installation for the new IT office. So that was major things.
Just curious why we're paying Bethlehem Public Library fines.
That's just if we lose one of their
Oh,
books, then
then
we
we
pay them
pay
back for it.
It used to be if you lost another library's books, you were told you either had to send them a check or write them a check at the desk. We thought that was a little,
I once lost a book from URI and they told me I had to come in with it. I was like,
Any other questions on the check register or the treasurer's report? If not, I'll take a motion to accept the check register.
Make a motion.
Allison, second Wendy, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Committee and liaison reports. So the executive committee report was added to the packet on Friday. What the most significant thing we discussed was the committee assignments, which was shared with you in advance. There's a new, on page 25 of your packet, there's a list of the committees, the executive committee assigned them. And well, first I want to thank Jenna for volunteering to be on the APL Foundation, and thank Andy for his longtime service on that board. And then thank Matthew and Sarah for volunteering for the North Albany Ad Hoc Committee. We'll need one more volunteer, but we're going to talk about that later in the meeting. Are there any other questions about the executive committee meeting minutes?
I just want to note that my name only has one element.
Your name
Throughout.
has two?
Yeah, it has two a couple times throughout, so.
Oh, in the executive committee minutes, okay,
Yes.
not in the committee minutes.
It's
Okay.
all right.
I'm sorry.
Barely spells my name. It's okay.
I have a question. Last year, I was told that my OLS liaison work was my second function, so that I was just doing, I don't know if we have talked about this, but I was just doing facilities and OLS, and now I'm facilities, personnel, OLS, and ad hoc. So,
Yeah,
something's
You're
gotta
busy.
give.
Yep. That's something we can adjust. Yeah.
Is there something that you prefer more than the other?
Or something you want to jettison?
I was thinking of staying on facilities for continuity because we're in the middle of our review of all the facilities. We're not finished yet, so so yeah, and I like personnel is something, if you wanted to consider me for that in the future, that's a place I would also wanna try, but I think just for this coming year to finish the facilities report, maybe that's where I need to be, unless you wanna take me off of the ad hoc, I don't know, cause I volunteered for an extra thing as well.
Right.
so.
Is anybody else interested in personnel?
I'm happy to join that.
Good crew.
Thank you.
And my name has 2 S's in it.
Oh, you're looking at the committee notes?
But I respond to anything nice.
Okay. We'll correct the names.
Yes. Will do.
All right, and we'll talk about the ad hoc committee later. Thanks, everybody. Sorry for oversight, Matthew. Okay, facilities committee.
Speak of the devil. So we had our last facilities meeting on July 17th, and the 2 main items on the agenda were the DLD grant submission and the walkthrough of this branch. So the DLD grant submission is wrapped up with the solar roof being placed on Howe, and the evaluation by Castleman is that it would only offset the electric bill of Howe by 30%, where most is sort of, according to Castleman via Scott, companies who do this now are kind of moving toward residential where they can actually make their money back more quickly. So just having a 30% savings on electricity is gonna make the payback on the roof much, much longer than a residential roof would take. And we discussed, Elisa and Scott and I discussed the idea, there's a 30-year life for the panels that they're talking about, but they, would something else newer come out that would kind of make these outdated long before that, so we don't know. So it helps us to be green and do a project like this, but it's not going to pay for itself very quickly. That's kind of where we are on that.
But there's the state construction funds, which would look very favorable on a green project. And NYSERDA grant money as well, so that would offset, so payback at this time is like 20 to 30 years, but with these other these are not loans, this is like outright paying for it. Our payback period would be sooner than that, so maybe even 10 years. So we were thinking if the life of the panels is 10 years and the industry standard is changing so rapidly that maybe in 10, 20 years we put, a rubber roof on with solar capacity. We could, in 10 years, we could evaluate that again. So that seemed like a reasonable offset.
So was the decision made to submit the grant? Because it's due. Yeah, so you included that. Okay.
Can I just ask, I'm guessing we don't need solar
Well, this is a two-part project. One is to repair the roof, which is part of the grant that got rejected last year. However, when we redid how, it is a Think Silver LEED certified facility. So we've always kind of philosophically wanted to move our buildings as green as possible. I don't know if we can get recertified gold with the solar panels on it, but it definitely moves us in that direction. And we view this as we're setting an example for other libraries and also nonprofits in the community about moving towards solar. So in some ways we're doing this because it's kind of, we feel like we're the stewards, and we are part of New York Library Association's sustainability initiative, and they definitely are very pro solar. It also bumps us up considerably in the rubric when Upper Hudson looks at this project.
Do we know how much Minnesota can provide?
Yes, I don't have that in front of me right now, but it was presented to the facilities committee. I think it's about 10 grand, 10 or 15 grand.
That's the cost of them.
No, what we would get back from NYSERDA for install.
How much is the cost to install? Is it 50,000?
Yes.
So the whole project is 104,000? How much the cost of the apartment?
For about 140,000.
Okay. Okay.
And if we don't get funded, are we going forward with the solar panels?
I would say no, but we need to go forward with repairing the roof. We can't put the panels up there till the roof's repaired.
Okay.
So second item was the Arbor Hill branch walkthrough. It's a lot of minutia. I don't feel it needs to be read out loud necessarily. You can read through it, kind of skim through it. It's just little things that need to be done and touched up. There is a crack in the floor, which people are worried about. Dan is monitoring that and making sure that it doesn't change, and hasn't changed in months, right? So the other things are less worrisome and just basic wear and tear that need to be taken care of. This is the board walkthrough, and this will be incorporated into the overall facilities report.
What number of branch was this on the facilities walkthrough and what's left?
Was it 3?
No, Bach and Washington, I mean, we don't, I think maybe we should do a walkthrough of the Y, but we have 2 branches left, Bach and Washington.
And I would, well, that's a facilities committee discussion, but I would vote for a quick walkthrough of the Y.
Yeah, because there are major issues there that aren't being.
So that would leave us 3.
The Bach,
Facilities issues we would need to pay for at the one?
No, but we
no.
just be aware of.
Yeah, that we need to be aware of.
Okay.
With the Bach walkthrough, Dana and I talked about today, it's probably a 20-minute walkthrough. If that Washington Avenue is gonna be, put on your walking shoes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of building.
Are those scheduled, or do you have an idea when those two will take place?
We haven't scheduled them yet. We do have on the books a quarterly facilities meeting, and sometimes we just say, okay, this one's one where we do a walkthrough. I think we have one scheduled in September, but I have to look, and you'll get an email as soon as it's scheduled. I now will email a full board meeting announcement as soon as the meeting's solidified.
So those were just for informational purposes only. There was no voting.
Any other questions on
No.
facilities? Thank you. UHLS.
All right, well, there is no August meeting. I put that this is for August, that was for July. Yeah, I just saw that. That was the July meeting. So it happened July 11th. very standard business. There wasn't a ton of voting going on. And if you access the digital document, you can take a look at the plan of service survey that they did, that they put together, or the plan of service for the next 5 years, rather. That's on a link under item 4. And the construction grant portal had opened. That was something that was announced to the board. Scott was aware of that. And because they're not having an August meeting, they're just having the committee that decides on the grants meet. And apparently they've been back and forth already with Scott and the other libraries who applied. So that's all rolling. There's been a board vacancy for quite some time for a small library on the other side of the river, so we voted a woman who has this great educational background in Rensselaer County to join the L's board. Nothing really earth-shattering.
Are you on the grant review committee?
I am not. I don't think the liaison normally is.
Is and will the whole board vote on the,
Yes, well, that's where we had the crazy votes
right,
last time.
that's what I was talking about.
So, they haven't done that yet. That would be
Okay.
our next meeting, I'm guessing,
Okay. And just remember,
September.
if a vote on email, nonprofit organization has to be, everybody has to say yes, otherwise it doesn't count.
I have to put that thing you sent me on Evernote, so I can just flash that right up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Peg, so Melanie, will you go?
So we met last Thursday. We did not have an official meeting because we did not have quorum. But we did hear from Telview, which is the company that supplies the server and the uploading equipment that actually puts the broadcast out. The equipment that we have right now is legacy equipment. It's no longer being supported. There are many, many issues with it. So we do need to replace it soon. It was going to be a little bit of an issue because we were having difficulties with budget, because the equipment, even the low-end equipment that we need to replace is at least $40,000, and we really only had $35,000 in our budget for equipment. Once we started this conversation, since we started the conversation about it, we determined that there is about $206,000 from the original phase 2 that was never spent on equipment that we thought was spent on equipment. So thankfully we have that. We're just finding out now, determining how that funds can be released. We still have to vote to purchase the equipment itself, so that decision won't be made until at least the September meeting. And then it turns out, in addition, the Department of Children and Health Services, the state,
Children and Family Services.
Children and Family Services gave us a grant back in 2015 of another couple $1,000s for equipment and such, and which was lost in the shuffle of things someplace. Somebody just forgot that we received it, and during an audit this year of their books, they realized that the money was never spent. So as soon as we have something to purchase, we can submit them the bill, and they will release the funds for that as well. October 20th, which happens to be now a very busy day, is Community Media Day, and the studio is planning an open house event on that day. We're still determining the time. It's looking like, right now I think we're estimating 10 to 2 or 11 to 3. It will be held at the Washington Avenue location in the large meeting room. There'll be speakers, there'll be classes on how to run the equipment, because you do need to get certified to utilize the equipment now. One of the things that we discussed in the past meeting is the role of the studio coordinator is not to produce the shows. His job is to coordinate what's going on in the studio, to get things uploaded and broadcasted. And in years past, people have kind of taken that role as, oh, you're our cameraman and you're gonna edit our video. So the board unanimously decided and put into writing as part of our policies and procedures that the studio coordinator will not be doing that. He'll be on hand to assist should it be needed, but he is not to be producing the shows. The producers of the show should be doing that. And that is getting a little bit of pushback from the community because they were used to having somebody else do their stuff. So right now, we're just in the process of trying to get the community trained to use the equipment so they can then produce their own shows.
And just to clarify, when you say we in this context, you mean PEG?
Right.
Yes. Except.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
happened to
It's fine.
wear two hats on that. So, as the PEG board, that's what we are pushing for. And if you are out in the community and see anybody videotaping any event and they have a placard up saying that they are Channel Albany, please let us know, because that is another thing that Channel Albany right now is the PEG board and the coordinator. Anybody videotaping events could videotape events to later then be broadcast, possibly broadcast on Channel Albany, but they are not representatives of Channel Albany themselves. So please inform us if anybody is out in the community stating that they are Channel Albany, because they should not be representing themselves as such.
Any other questions? Okay. Policy and procedures, great.
No updates have been made. You guys have to.
Director's report.
Can I just go back to this one sec? The full board discussion needed for board member expectations conduct? What, we've been
That's-
putting that off, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been waiting for you guys to make the arrangements to have that meeting.
Right, so we drafted.
Yeah, I'll take
Yeah, we're working on-
responsibility for that because
We're working
at the
on it.
last meeting, I had an action item which I have not yet completed. Allison did the vast majority of the work on that, but there was a couple of small additions that I wanted to like build out and then share amongst the executive committee. And I'm delinquent on that, so I need to take the hit for that.
Thank you.
So hopefully
APL staff
by,
has taken a back seat because as expectations of the board, that should be
Yeah,
decided
right.
solely on your.
Right, okay.
so hopefully by September I'll get it drafted, share with the executive committee.
Okay.
We can move forward.
Thank you.
So summer reading is in full swing across the district. The Washington Avenue and Pine Hills branch conducted another successful story time on a CDTA bus. The Arbor Hill branch kicked off a 4-week ceramics program with a local artist. The Pine Hills branch hosted a music trivia night at the 9 Pit Cider as part of the APL on the road. The Bach branch's Let's Talk About Albany program took a field trip to the Tenbrook Mansion. The Delaware branch hosted the Iroquois games and dances on the back patio. The Howe branch's crime fiction writing workshop with one of this year's literary legends, Frank Bailey, has been a great success at Howe. North Albany hosted a drum circle using the Wise small gym as their official SRP kickoff, and I think there was about 40 or 50 kids at that event. The library participated in the ribbon cutting ceremony of the Larkin Library bus station in front of the Washington Avenue branch. All locations passed their annual inspection without any violations. The library district made a significant upgrade to its network and is now 1 gigabyte branch to branch into the internet. In August, a little bit of a preview, the Washington Avenue branch will have hosted a drag queen story hour. The Bach branch will have organized an emergency and first aid for pets beginner class. The Arbor Hill West Hill branch put on magic workshops for ages 3 to 17. The public television was at the Delaware branch for Giraffes Can Dance.
Can you just hold on a second? So distracted.
Alex is on
Okay.
Was that canceled? Okay,
It was.
fine now. And the Hal branch will be hosting a hip hop showcase on 8/17. And then just a reminder to everybody that summer reading concludes 8/31, August 31. The statistics were a little late, but they came as an addendum to your packet. I just want to point them out because for the last 2 months, 3 months, all of our stats have been trending in a really positive manner, including circulation. So unless something drastically goes wrong, we may actually see an increase in circulation month over month, which would make me really happy. But other than that, I mean, we're up in every metric, including summer reading signups. Summer reading signups, we surpassed our goal about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, very early. So we're doing really well. I'm just really happy with these numbers. And this is how we're gonna report, this is the format that we're gonna report them in going from there. I'll open the floor up to any questions.
How are we doing with summer reading completion? Are kids sticking with it?
Where kids are sticking with it, it's at about the same rate as it was last year, but because there's more kids, that means more kids are completing it. What's also good is our data is much better this year. So we have probably about 200 more kind of kids that we've identified that we've kind of followed. But the completion, again, is not up, but we're hoping in the end we'll get a higher completion rate.
And Albany Promise is happy with what they're getting?
Albany Promise is very happy with the data. They're very happy with what they're getting. They think it's better than it was last year. Yeah, we're all very happy with the way things are working out. Some of the things we tried this year, like using the school district's SNN network, have been really helpful. So we have to look at community partnerships and how they've made this program successful.
When will we get an update from Albany Promise? I can't remember when we did last year.
I believe it was either October or November
Oh,
of last
yeah,
year.
it might
Did they
be.
have a recent one from them? No, they did like the who we are, not the update, right?
No, they
No,
did a
they
whole
didn't update.
presentation on that.
So
Find out.
Yeah.
the,
that wasn't-
the staff will do an update of how successful the summer reading program was. The promise doesn't usually come in until the test scores. And they have to, so the tests at them, what's usually, one of the first tests given, gosh, I remember this.
September.
It's either late September or early October.
Yeah.
So we probably won't hear about
NWEA
their
will be in
review
late
until.
September.
They have data. Because I remember the first update Melanie gave at my very first meeting. So then we had the Albany Promise lady again at Pine Hills. I thought that was pretty recent. But it's cool. Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about the fallout or encouragement from the drag story hour.
We're gonna do a full debrief on that next month when we report out, but I can tell you that, we won't do one again when I'm on vacation.
It was so popular.
We had 211 people
That's
come.
huge.
If you discount social media interactions, it was probably one positive comment per 3 negative comments. Fred Dicker, who's a
I think
radio
just the
host.
opposite.
No, if you discount Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't use social media, we had about 20 people reach out to us. About 5 of them were positive, 15 were negative. We saw a huge uptick in that when Fred Dicker kind of expressed some dissatisfaction with the library.
We've been a targeted visit before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as I had a teammate from Jiu-Jitsu text me like, "Oh my God, you have to put Fred Dicker on right now." I'm like, it is what it is. So of the 4 media coverage, 3 were positive, 1 was negative. One of those was News Talk 13, came back, actually interviewed Lisa, and it was a relatively positive interaction. If you include social media, it was, what would you say, 5 negative comments to about 400 positive comments?
To add Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram altogether, it was vastly positive.
And even I fielded several phone calls from the negative comments, and after explaining our reasoning behind it, and they all were like, okay, that sounds reasonable. And I didn't have anybody at the end of a conversation say, they hate the library, will never come again. They were all like, okay, that's reasonable, we understand.
The people I spoke with, 2 of them were not Albany residents, which I found interesting. And then the Albany residents I talked to, once it was explained that it was not during a regularly scheduled story time, that this was optional, and because of the age range, kids pretty much had to be with their parents, they were much more understanding. Wouldn't say understanding, but they were less angry.
Yes.
It's not an invention of the Albany Public Library. This
Not
is
at
something that happens all over.
Hudson.
Yeah. So,
Is it nationwide?
It's
Because I know,
nationwide.
I was talking with someone who lives in Connecticut, and this was mostly done in June, I believe.
A lot of them did them during Pride Month.
Right, right.
Hudson's been doing a regular one.
Queens does a regular one.
Yeah,
as
Queens
well.
does a regular one as well.
Queens Public Library's been doing it for like a decade.
And to be honest, we've had directors from the other libraries in the system basically bugging me for when we were gonna do it, because they would like to do it, but, you know, it was even said at the last DA meeting last week that it was, everybody was waiting for us.
How,
We actually had Mary Fellows from Upper Hudson attend the event, and she's like, that was her sentiment, is that thank you for doing this, because now this opens it up for the other Upper Hudson.
And there's a really wonderful blog post from a woman on the Post-Star website that I will share with you. I just read it to them.
I'm good.
Sorry.
I just wanted to point out, you mentioned the 4-session ceramics class. So that was one of the grants from APLF, right? Right, so do we talk about
What was that?
Instead of just giving the money to APL this year, the foundation worked with the library to get applications for grants for innovative programs. And so one of the programs that's got mentioned of the ceramics class, ceramics class, was one of those grants.
So,
Yeah, so it's, I thought, as sitting on the foundation board, I thought that was really fun.
I'm sorry, which class?
The
Ceramics
ceramics.
class.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Non sequitur, I was still on direct.
Drag queens.
I wanted to mention it before.
Who gave you a grant to do the drag queen?
So this is gonna be a regular feature, it's gonna be another set in the fall. And it's just it's a fun way to encourage innovation and participation with the staff.
Yep. I thought that process was really good, and it gives the foundation something to hang its hat on, which is a positive, and it lets our staff understand the foundation a little bit better and feel a little bit more involved.
And I do want to just mention, we mentioned for the Drag Queen Story Hour that 211 people showed up, and all of those were in support. We had extra staff on hand in case there were dissenting people, and there was not a single one.
puppy dog veterinary thing was widely,
Yes.
enjoyed. And
Good. It's good to hear. We actually had a negative comment about that, but that's,
that's okay. That was my bad.
Dare you teach those puppies to read?
No, they were getting stitches and Band-Aids.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So we have no unfinished business. Under new business, just one item is appointing another trustee to the North Albany Branch Ad Hoc Committee.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I
didn't
just,
even hear what's going on.
I distracted Brenda.
So we want 3 trustees on the North Albany Ad Hoc Committee for
That's
North
okay.
Albany to work with the staff to re-envision that space and recommit to the program. So Matthew and Sarah have volunteered, thank you very much. And we're looking for for one more trustee to volunteer for that one.
Volunteer.
Thank you, Anthony. All right. And we already talked about rescinding the tax cap. So next step is public comment, and seeing no public present, it is time to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Jenna, second. Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
7 on the dot.
Wow, I didn't even have to.
Oh, so, Dr. Hotaling from Parkside came in and had kids bring.
Welcome to the September meeting of the Albany Public Library Board of Trustees. First on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Can I have a motion to do that?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Allison. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Jenna. Any additions or discussion on it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comment? I don't see any members of the public. So we'll move on. Minutes from last month. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Make a motion.
Thanks, Allison. Can I have a second? Sarah, thank you. Any comments, questions, additions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Treasurer's report and check register. Does anyone have any questions on either one of these?
Can you just, remind me that, the rental in, the rental income we didn't budget for?
Because we have the ACAP and,
We didn't budget for that, and we didn't do a revised budget? Is that correct?
I'll have to double check that. I didn't. We should have budgeted for it, but I don't have the back out details of that. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I had a question on the check register.
Okay.
The rent for North Albany,
Yeah.
the 3,200, is that to make up for August?
That was July and August payments of 1,600.
1,600.
Okay, that was my question.
And I had the question about that too, because it says rent, and I think we're specifically not calling it rent. So I think we should call it something
Okay, we
else.
can call it.
And did we pay the other, paid July and August, but then what about March through?
We had paid earlier in the year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was July and August that you were in September and October now. Are those in there too?
No. We'll do September at the end of the month, and then October at the end of the following month. Can someone let Andy in?
Oh. And then on page 6, community activities budget is quite a bit over budget.
So what budget?
Page 6, community activities expenditures is 987% over budget.
That looks like an error in percentage that's expended.
Well, that's,
Wait, hold on, that one,
You know what it was? It got corrected on the first sheet, but you
Not
never
on the
corrected
second.
it on the second sheet.
I'll speak to Chuck about that.
so where is it on the first?
So on the first sheet, it was originally reflected in. It was originally reflected in materials and services. So if you look at the materials and services, the third down in expenditures. So the first sheet that's in front of you, page 5,
Yep.
is basically, is a synopsis of different categories
Yep.
combined together.
Yep.
So originally that had an error, we caught it, and we made sure it was corrected. But
Okay.
it seems like now we know, when broken down, where that error came from. And that needs to be corrected.
Okay.
Are some of the other items that are more than 100% over budget caused by the similar error, or?
No, the software is running, over budget.
Software is running over budget because we had to purchase an additional malware software.
Right, and
Detections.
periodicals are definitely over budget.
That's what periodicals are. We are 90% spent out on maintenance and repairs before the snow season.
Yes, we had put, a lower number in that budget line, and yes, he's running at 90% right now, yes, yes.
But we're watching that line closely. It's also, we have saved in staffing. So some of the spending that we've been doing, there'll be a budget mod in November, which will change this and redisperse this, but as we found out last year for facilities projects, if we're taking savings from one budget line, using it in another budget line, we can't wait until November or else we will not spend that money. So we've been kind of tactically looking at our lines. And we also had a lot more snow removal at the end of of the winter than we were expecting, so that's also why it's a little high. But if you look, our biggest budget line is payroll and related costs, and we're still trending below that.
Okay.
So there's some additional projects that we've added on to kind of, and we're also taking the money that we're making from rent and really using that for building projects as well.
Back to the community activities line. So percentage was wrong, but is the total wrong?
No, yes it is. Give me a second, I'm working the math out for that.
That's a scary.
Yeah,
It was
the,
just-
It appears that
the
that's-
year-to-date number's way too high.
That year-to-date number should be 6148.
Okay.
If I'm doing, please let me check my math on that though.
Prior month with, no, I don't.
Cause it
Which
was,
we're
if it
putting
is
in the-
corrected on the first sheet.
Just to remind the board, we do the, 5-year forecast. When we do the 5-year forecast, we're in the middle of it. We look at all budget lines, and we will do budget modifications to, raise those. For instance, like maintenance and repairs, that will go up, you know, we have, significant savings in salaries, and we also have savings in the New York State retirement system. So we have money to fund those other costs where we are over the budget line.
So that year-to-date number for community activities should be that $6,148. And that would, fall in line with administrative and miscellaneous on the first page. Not under materials and services, but under administration and miscellaneous. So that would have that number, it was corrected on the front and first page, but not on the second page.
And so will we
The
get,
percentage is 87, or 88% approximately.
can we get a corrected version that goes in the packet for the,
Yes, I'll have Chuck,
Website. Thank you.
Chuck's report, I'll have.
okay, I'll take a motion for the check register.
Make a motion.
Thanks, Alyssa. Second? Second. Awesome, thank you. Any other questions about that? Okay, all in favor? All right. Committee and liaison reports. So first up is Facilities Committee, and Alyssa, you're the new chair.
There was no meeting.
There was-
I'm the new chair.
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Hey, So the news is, I'm the new chair. And we changed a meeting, I believe we have on the agenda, something about our vehicle. So we would have discussed that at the facilities meeting, but we're bringing it to the whole board.
So there wasn't a facilities meeting?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that.
All right, PEG liaison.
Sure, so we met this month, at the beginning of the month. We are looking into new equipment. Unfortunately, when we had our presentation on the new equipment, not everybody was there, so they're trying to bring everybody up to date. And this is the equipment, essentially a server that will allow them to take the video that they produce through the studio and upload it to broadcast it. So it's the broadcast server. The one we have is completely out of date. It's no longer being supported for any updates or upgrades or anything of that nature. They'll support it should it break down, but that's about it. And right now, the server that we have will only allow for like 2 video formats, which is really restrictive because people aren't using those 2 formats much anymore. So it's about a $58,000 outlay though for the new equipment. But this will allow us to not only broadcast multiple formats, it's allows for cloud-based, so it's not, the person doesn't have to be in the studio to upload everything, they can do it via computer at home, so it will allow for more flexibility. It'll allow for broadcasting via our website, so we can do the live stream on the website and stuff like that. So we have the budget for it, so at the next meeting, we're hoping to have quorum to be able to vote officially to purchase that. The other big thing is October 20th is Community Media Day it's National Community Media Day, and that date sounds familiar. It is also the date of our foundation gala. So they will be hosting, we've been talking about doing an open house with the studio, with the new coordinator to get people in the community kind of excited about that. So on the 20th from 11 to 3, they will be doing a open house as well. So they'll be doing studio tours, question and answers with the board, with the studio coordinator, and also there will be a meet and greet with some of the producers of the shows that are currently running, and kind of a how to get started if you wanted to produce your own show. And then there's going to be a forum discussion or moderated discussion from 1:30 to 3, with different people talking about the future of public access channel and following. So that should be wrapping up around 3 o'clock. I'm getting them started and then I'll be running over to how to set up for the gala. But that's where we are right now. The website, I believe, is finally back up. We were finally able to get that going again. We're still having issues getting access to the Facebook account for the, what happened was during the interim and the upheaval of the board, passwords were lost, and now we have to fight to get access back into that with the new board, because the person who signed up is no longer with us and has no authority anymore. That's where it's going.
And to clarify, when you say we in this context, you're talking about the PEG board?
The board.
Not the library.
Correct.
So okay.
It's a very confusing.
Any other questions or comments about that? Okay, thank you, Molly. Policies and procedures grid.
No updates, we haven't had a policy meeting.
Okay. Director's report.
So the library in August, the library and City Hall hosted an ice cream with the mayor event with select summer reading program participants. The Washington Avenue branch, we hosted our first drag queen story hour. The Arbor Hill West Hill branch staff were busy this month with teen behavior and improving it. The Bach branch's Let's Talk About It program discussed the history of Washington Park, UAlbany's original campus, and the building of the Uptown campus and pools in Albany. They covered a lot in one session. Pine Hills branch staff are happy to report groups of the RISE Refugee and Immigrant Support Services of Amos use their summer reading prizes, which you could win. You could win coupons to Sky Zone. They used that so they could take a group trip to Sky Zone. So that was really nice. The Delaware branch reported a continued increase in job skill and resume writing assistance. District Attorney David Sawyers presented a well-attended informational session on marijuana laws at our Howell branch, and the staff of the North Albany branch are excited to report a successful youth and adult summer reading program. Operations-wise, Human Resources helped transition performance assessments to an online process. We're still working that out. PR handled multiple media inquiries and social media interactions regarding the Drag Queen Story Hour, and facilities reported several AC units went down. Pine Hills air conditioning seems resolved, but we're still struggling with how. This week we received the replacement part. When they went to replace it, they found out that the part had been broken in transit, so we're hoping to get a new part. This is one of those situations where we have to buy the replacement parts from the companies that made the engines. So we're still struggling with that. I've spoken with the staff down there. We have multiple portable AC units, and when it got really hot, they said it was still manageable. Looking forward, the Arbor Hill West Hill branch will have celebrated library card sign-up month, which is this month, with a scavenger hunt. The Washington Avenue branch will be hosting an author talk and book signing from John Miller, the author of Historic Theaters of New York's Capital District. That's on 9/16. He was interviewed on our last podcast. The Pine Hills branch will have a pop-up library at the Madison Avenue Street Fair. That's 9/23. The Delaware branch will be creating fall-inspired wreaths. That's 9/29. The Bach branch will have a library card sign-up reception, 9/22. And the Washington Avenue branch with the Capital District ACLU will be putting on a banned books readout. We do this every year. We love it. I'll be reading Yertle the Turtle this year, one of my favorites. And that's our report. Open the floor to questions.
Can you talk more about Arbor Hill?
So, you were at the last board meeting. That's
Yeah.
kind of become regular behavior there. Today, Sarah and I met. We're actually adding staff there. We had one successful meeting with the Neighborhood Association. We had a very successful meeting with the school superintendent. Bob and I have to discuss what that relationship's going to look like. So we've put everything in place to help with the situation. It's just the teen behavior in Albany is a little concerning this early in the school year. But we saw behavior that night, and we've seen subsequent behavior. I've been to the branch a handful of times, and every time I'm there, except for this past Thursday when the Neighborhood Association met, it's been some serious issues. Same kids have been kicked out, kids who are on the police radar. That branch has a lot of rocks in its landscaping, so we've had some significant damage to the building. We call the police show up, but it takes them some time. So it's gonna need to be a community thing, it's gonna need to be a partner thing. Our partners are lined up and the community is lined up to help, but there's no quick fix to it. The staff handle it very, very well. They were actually, we're celebrating a reprieve over the summer when school ended. I think late June into July was fairly quiet. However, when we hit August, that's when we saw an increase in vandalism and bad behavior inside the library.
What kind of vandalism are we talking about? And have staff reported feeling unsafe?
So we've met with the staff several times about whether or not they feel safe or not. We've actually offered some transfers for some staff. However, they say they don't feel unsafe. They feel somewhat supported. Annie Johnson, who's our community support, our
Community services and support specialist.
she's been over there a bunch of times. She's working with the staff on approaches. What they've also done is we're not doing programming in the programming room. We're basically making that a teen space. That's something we did at Delaware when we had a significant amount of issues. We are concerned with staff burnout, but for the most part, they've expressed that they want to be there. Most of the vandalism is kind of rock throwing, onto the side of the building, creating dents. There was some writing on the side of the building, but for the most part, it's more like, it's less artistic vandalism and more just kids who are really bored and have found rocks that they can throw at a building.
I think we understand that the building's metal.
Makes a loud noise when it.
Sounds cool.
So, and the police have been engaged, but they have their hands full.
So I think I was there along with Brenda and staff from the library, and the community members are quite concerned about it and implored each other to actually be a neighborhood presence at the library, just a kind of neighborly watch on being there, which I think is a great idea. And some people made a commitment to come in between the 3 and 6 o'clock hour, just to be there. I have made a commitment to try to do that once a week. If I invite all of you to do the same, just to be witness to it, and also, hopefully to be an adult. That doesn't seem to influence them, these kids, much. But there were several things that came out of it. One is, it's an uptick, but it is also developmental. They're not high school kids. If they are high school kids, they're younger high school kids, but it's middle school and high school. They are known to the school, and the principal was at this meeting and invited the library staff to actually come to the middle school and walk through the cafeteria. So from a board perspective, I would like to see that pursued and strengthened, because I think she made it very clear that she was going to be the intermediary with the kids when you're on when you're on her turf. So I thought that was very good. We have to get smarter about how to engage them. These kids have nowhere. They have no place. There's no place that they can go. Even the community center, the community center is reserved for the little kids until 6:15 or something, until they can go.
Yeah, and Lincoln Park
And-
closes out for them from 4 to 5. Yep.
Well, so the whole thing is kind of a disaster. And then the other thing is the police were there, a representative from the police department, and they don't want to arrest children, and they're completely flummoxed on how you deal with these completely disrespectful, kind of out of control kids. So I think from a board perspective, I want to reiterate that the staff is highly respected by the adults in that community.
And many of the kids.
So, but rightfully so, what was brought out was that we do not have enough people of color employed. And when we did have we had a staff member there for many years who was kind of mother, and you didn't mess with her, and she kicked people out, and some people were afraid of her, but she was able to kind of maintain this. So I think we've got, so there were recommendations of inviting the community into a staffing orientation, an employment orientation for library jobs, which I would like to see us pursue. So it does matter what people look like when we staff libraries in particularly fluid neighborhoods. And it does matter who kids see telling them to pull it together, And so I think these are our issues. We can go back to our strategic plan and look at, our interest in diversifying our staff and outreach. I want us to be wouldn't it be great if we could programmatically address this issue internally so that we can actually provide the best services? These are kids, they're out of control, they have nothing to do, they have crappy home lives to go back to. Well, where else should they go to but the library? Of course they should come to the library. If they're coming to the library, how do we engage them? How do we be adult enough and strong enough to do that? And I'm not saying that the staff is not adult enough. It's a difficult situation. But it would be great if we could not look so beholden to these kids who've got, real issues they're working on.
So, you actually reminded me, Alyssa, because I know we'd been talking a lot about vandalism on the outside, but when you said they don't have anywhere to go, I do remember at the last meeting running in and out, and I feel like they got kicked out at some point. Have they been trying to come in the library, and have they been thrown out due to noise or what? Okay, what's the situation there? Have they been trying to come in the library? Or?
So many of the kids get told that, okay, you've been here long enough, you're starting to act up.
Okay.
How about you go for the day? There are multiple kids who have been banned for significant portions of time, like 3 months, but they ignore the banning, they still come in the
For
building.
doing what?
Fighting, we've had a lot of fights.
In the library.
We recently had a young man who was drunk and admitted that he was drunk to one of the police officers.
Teenager?
18.
Yeah.
No, 17. So those mostly the kids who got banned are the kids who fight, and they will just, they won't come around for a week or two, and then they'll show up.
And so that's what happens. If you don't have, and we've had a staffing issue there, right? We've been looking to replace the community engagement officer there, so there's only a part-time person there, there's not the full-time person. And if you don't have somebody at the door monitoring who comes in, then that's when that begins to get out of control, because if the staff is doing their library work or helping customers or doing whatever they're doing, they can't always watch who's walking in the door. So, was it the police officer was saying he followed up on one of these young women, went to the house,
Yes.
the grandmother was the guardian, and the grandmother basically said to the police officer, she's completely out of control, I can't do anything, can you help me? That child was quite disrespectful to her grandmother. So you can see this is the neighbors were talking about, can't we get the parents involved? Can't we contact the parents? It's clear that the library, we don't have the jurisdiction or the capability of going into people's homes, tracking children down and, dealing with their families. And when the cops do it, it's not often fruitful. So,
Sometimes it's unnecessarily punitive to someone who's a middle schooler, I mean, I don't know that unnecessarily is the right word, but it's punitive.
well, but it's an endemic, it's a much more complex issue but what happens on the outside is that when there's 20 or 30 of them roving in a pack and committed to, really acting up, and it is developmental. Let's remember, they're not all bad kids. This is what middle schoolers do. They're horrendous. They're really hard to manage, especially in a group. And it is their job to try to push every possible boundary. Oh, I don't know, Matthew's the expert on this age here. So the question is that every library in America has gotta have, been dealing with difficult middle schoolers. So this is not new to us.
It's not new to us. I mean, to remind you, we've had this issue at Delaware, we've had this issue multiple times at Howe, so we're employing we've had this issue at Washington Avenue, we're employing some of the things that have helped us there, but this is
Worse.
worse,
Okay.
and it's, whereas with Delaware and Washington Avenue, it wasn't necessarily neighborhood-wide. This is behavior that the neighborhood has said they're seeing.
All over.
Yeah. And the school is, and Officer Pierce is as well. But the library is a space that they can go to, and, you know, when I went there and spoke with Ray, who's one of our, community, clerks there, and he said, yeah, we know it's when the recreation center isn't open, and it's after they get kicked out of the recreation center. He's like, that's my experience when they're coming.
Could we create partnerships with the recreation center to try to have programming that's more appropriate to get energy
We
out?
could, I mean, we've spoken with them, but I think they're,
They're exasperated.
yes.
Well, and the neighborhood association doesn't, that relationship with the community center seems a little tenuous, you know, so I think we've got to diversify the staff there. People doing programs there have to look like the kids there. I'm sorry, just. And I think we have to have a big programmatic intervention, and that might mean a partnership with a community organization. It would be great if it could be something like Youth FX, or I don't know, something in some kind of creative gang gang in terms of lots of people involved.
Gaggle.
Gaggle, not gang.
Scott, would you be able to talk for a minute? You said you have multiple partners lined up, ready to help us. Could you just talk about a little bit about who they are and what they might be able to do? Yeah, as best you can.
Yeah, I mean, we've described some of the neighborhood association, which is we typically work with the neighborhood associations of this issue, and they're looking to get people from the community to volunteer.
Right.
We met with the school, Annie and I met with the school superintendent and her team a couple days before that meeting. They're definitely interested. They recognize that the middle school has kind of changed the dynamics of behavior in that corridor. We have spoken with recreation. The other rec center is run by Trinity. That's kind of up in the air. And then there are relationships that the staff are creating on the ground, like with our neighbors, the kids zone, things like that. There are multiple nonprofit agencies and organizations in the area that we can partner with, but we just have to create something programmatic.
See, the biggest thing that we're seeing is there's the pent-up energy.
Sure.
And we're not a gym, we're not a physical facility of that nature. So we're trying to work with our partners who do have those resources, but they're limited as well. I mean, they're facing what every other nonprofit's facing with budget crunches and such. And with the community center, they see the need, but they have, it's not just the teens they serve the younger kids too. And so that's why, and they see, a definite need to keep the two separate, to not allow for the older kids to be there when the younger kids are there, not to be a bad influence on
Sure.
them. So that's why, after school, it's the little kids' time, and then in the evening, it's the older kids' time. And unfortunately, when the older kids need to get the release out, is that after school period, and so
Right.
there's really unless they can somehow split that building down the center, constructively, to allow for both groups to be there at the same time, that's really the only option.
Oh, there's the crack. There's a crack on the floor.
But they would need additional funding, they would probably need additional people, so there would be a dedicated staff for the younger kids and a dedicated staff for the older kids. So it's one of these situations where I do see, the library tends to be seen as the catch-all.
Yep.
And this is a situation where we can't, because that's something that we just physically can't provide.
The sheer numbers of the kids, 30 to sometimes 40 kids coming through the door within a very short window of time. And we have 4 staff members. So we are moving some staff from Washington Avenue over there just to kind of support the staff that are there, but it is a wave of kids.
Do we have that position filled yet?
We did interviews yesterday.
So you're still another at least week or 2 weeks away
Possibly.
from getting somebody in place.
So we have gotten a lot of applications to this position, but this is a employee market. So, like all of our positions, they're harder to fill than they were in the past.
Because we don't want just a warm body specifically in this position. We need to have somebody who has the skills that can handle it, because you don't want somebody who's just gonna fly off the handle at the first interaction.
That would be bad.
Correct.
I mean, I know, I don't claim to be an expert on any of our programming, but I know that the Wii video game is a more active kind of thing.
So we,
And I'm sure that there are several people around that know way more about how to deal with this, because we've had it at several other places, but it's worse here.
so we do that programming. So, you know, there's one thing, and we've seen this, we saw this at Howe a few times, where it's, you've got your group of library kids who come in, they do programming.
Right.
They're kind of the normal crew of kids who come in. And then you have, you know, and this was discussed at the neighborhood association, you have
Wild bunch.
one or two kids who come in, and some of those kids follow the lead, some of those kids back away, some of those kids get picked on. So yes, we've put all of those things in place that have been successful other places, and we've reached that.
Still struggling.
Yes.
So we need some more help.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you've lined up some help. You're having good conversations with other groups, and let's keep this on the agenda and just see how it's going and see if other resources are needed or support from the board. Sound?
Just one last thing. I mean, the city has wholly turned its back on that area forever. And there's no concerted effort from City Hall to address any of those problems other than through the police department. So, I mean, it's no wonder why that neighborhood has become what we left it to become, right? It just seems to me that in these situations, we never try and partner with the kids themselves. And I think that that's an overlooked avenue here to directly engage those kids.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely.
So with our new community services and support specialist, Annie, we had a meeting with Katie Clark from the Albany Police Department, who runs the anti-violence multidisciplinary team coordination. And one of the things she mentioned and that they want us on the table of is or bring us to the table to, is the Teen Advisory Council that they have. So speaking on that, they said, you know, that's a bunch of kids that are looking at the issues of the city. And she goes, it's amazing. She goes, they won't participate. They won't come to your library. They won't participate in the community center activities, but they're willing to give their opinions on what needs to be done. So when that meeting, I think, is at the end of September, and they've asked us to not join that committee. So Annie will be representing us.
Yeah, I mean, I just think anything we can do, that neighborhood is in such dire need of services and attention and care. Whatever role the library can play, and frankly, we may be the organization that's best suited to play a role in that neighborhood. You know, a thing that I've been kicking around in my day job is for school district public libraries to create an ex officio seat specifically for a high school kid that's elected by, you know, their peers. You know, that's obviously like kind of a bit of an out there thing, but just thinking about different ways that we can engage those kids in particular.
Jonathan Jones, the director of Parks and Rec, lives in Arbor Hill, and they just got a new huge playground in Tenbrook, so I do think that there is new attention being paid to Arbor Hill, and I think that could be a really good partnership, because he's somebody who knows those kids and knows
We-
the
Well,
we're-
and that's the neighborhood association too, they've been.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a regular partnership with Albany Rec, and
Yeah.
him and I have discussed Arbor Hill and some of the issues. I mean, you do have to remember that the school district bought that building, so it's a recreation department when kind of,
Yeah.
like the basketball courts specifically are only available certain times of the year.
That sucks.
Which is our community engagement clerk who left us due to health reasons. That was his biggest complaint, because he also worked at that community center, and he said he definitely saw that have a negative effect on teen behavior.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, your point is
Well,
well taken.
I think we have seen an uptick, not just because it's happening, but because we haven't had a full-time community engagement clerk, because we had a staffing change a little while ago where a significant person from the staff was no longer there. I do think that has had a significant impact on that. So on those two fronts, I think we just need to be very, and especially in these next couple of weeks where these kids are going to, test you even more to see whether they've got an in for the rest of the year. So I think whatever rearranging of staff you can do just to put a lot of attention on it right now and see if we can tamp it down until we come up with some other possible scenarios.
So, yeah, just, I think, let's keep it on the agenda. I'll keep talking about it and pull us in where needed. Unless a suggestion of actually doing some of the office hours or the.
Yeah, I would just come and, I was suggesting maybe we could volunteer to do stuff and, let's just not get involved in it, just show up.
Just see
Be
what's
a
going on.
witness and stand there in front of them if you need to, I don't know, something,
I feel like I have enough teens in my life.
Yeah.
I have enough teens in my life.
Oh my.
No,
Well,
I'm
that's what's been asked of
Yeah.
by the neighborhood association, and they didn't have a rousing response to that request. Only one person offered to do that, and I think what they're trying to do is really appeal to parents, and they're having a huge struggle with that.
Yeah.
Because there's only a certain number of people who are engaged.
And available.
And
at that
available.
time.
From 3 to 6.
That
yeah,
was, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move to new business. The 2019 schedule of survey.
So I'm passing around an update. I'm sorry, the one that was in the packet, we looked at the wrong calendar. So, we were basing it on last year's vacation, and it is, different this year. Other than that, the branch closures, in observance of holidays are no different, because that's now stipulated in the union contract. And the days that we are open, and also when branches close early. We close early on Thanksgiving Eve.
Thank you.
And we close early on New Year's Eve. Staff Development Day, it'll be on the 18th, and that avoids the school holiday.
We assume we need to vote on this.
I have a question. Will we ever think about keeping one branch open on Sundays in the summertime?
I would love to. Yeah.
And
If you had your druthers, which one?
Bach, because it is the easiest one to staff, because not only do we have to take into consideration the cost of staffing on a Sunday and getting the building open, it is very difficult to get people to work on a Sunday. So, and we often have some call-ins for Sundays. A branch like Bach can operate with 2 people, so if we schedule 4 people and 2 people call in sick, we can still operate the branch.
Thank you.
Sounds like something we can talk about for budget development in the next few months. Motion to approve updated schedule of service.
Make motion.
I'll second.
Allison and then Andy. Okay, any other comments, questions, discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Closing the Howe branch at 3.
So this is for the gala. We do this at every branch that we have the gala at. A branch like Howe will need a significant amount of rearrangement before the gala to open up the space. So these few hours kind of give our facilities staff time to really move the large shelves so that we can create a little bit of a space for people attending the gala.
Motion. Jenna, thank you. Okay, Andy. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. And the tickets for the Literary Legends Gala are on sale now, and so I encourage all board members to attend. It's the biggest fundraiser for the APL Foundation, which now provides the grants to do innovative programming here at the library.
And given that the foundation supports this library that we care very much about, I urge all of us, it would be great to have 100% participation by all board members for this event. It's a great way to just show our friends and neighbors how much we support this. So I encourage everyone to either support this or make a contribution to the foundation.
I've attended every one. It's a really fun party.
Yeah.
And the food's really good, and there's a lot of incredibly interesting people, so there's always good conversations. And there's libations, so the conversations kind of happen.
Can't beat the bartender.
What was that?
Can't beat the bartender.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. You're partial.
Okay. The MC annual assessment.
So as you know, we've been slowly working at kind of getting the way we treat management confidential staff in line with our policy. So every time there's an anniversary, I will be doing an assessment of that member of the staff and sharing with you, the board, whether or not they passed their assessment. This past month was Susan Rebecca Lubin and Marjorie Reinhardt. They both passed their annual assessment. I am suggesting a 3.5% raise for both. This would bring their pay closer to what their peers make in the area and help us keep staff in a highly competitive employee retention environment. It would also compensate for additional duties both employees have and will be taking.
So I have I'll take a motion for maybe approving the assessment and the 3.5% increase. Let's make the motion and we can discuss.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Andy.
I will second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion.
Remind me what the negotiated step was with the contract?
So we're trying to decouple from the contract.
Yeah.
However, the step would be 1%, and also management confidential staff did not receive their step last year. So this is actually in line with those 2 steps and a 1.5% increase. You have to also take into consideration that the sliding scale for health insurance has a major impact on all management confidential staff. So if they were union staff, this would actually catch them up to last year's step, this year's step, and then the raise they would receive.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Mary Cullinan agreement.
So the board reviewed and looked at an agreement. There were not many edits to it. We added some language from the, I don't want to misphrase,
The MC compensation policy.
the MC compensation policy, just some wording from that was added to it. Mary's signed the agreement, I've signed the agreement. This would allow Mary to retire a few months early and still get her health benefits. She would, for those months that she is retiring early, be paying about double what she normally would, and then that would fall back to being in line on her anniversary date.
So I'll take a motion to approve the agreement.
Make a motion.
Thanks, Alyssa. Any seconds? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Alright, motion carries. And remind us, Mary, when is your last day? December 7th, okay. Okay. Decommissioned printers.
So I'm handing around a memo just so that it's kind of a clarification of what we're doing. This is in line with what we have done in the past, but we haven't really done it in such a really following policy guidelines. So the following printers have been decommissioned. I'm not going to go through the list. What happens when technology like this is decommissioned is we typically give it to Upper Hudson, and then Upper Hudson distributes it among smaller libraries that don't have as robust of a budget as we do. And then sometimes we identify nonprofits in the community that are looking for some IT updates.
Is this an information item or an action item?
Action item.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the decommissioning of these printers.
I'll
Okay,
make a motion.
thanks, Alyssa. Second, Andy. Any discussion?
I had a quick question, I'm sure I know the answer to already. What is the relative dollar value of these printers, like $6?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if we were to try to resell them, we would not.
Yeah.
It would not be worth the amount of time and energy that we spent putting them on eBay.
One of the things that they're running into, there's a toner issue with one of them, that the toners are not being mass produced anymore, so like it's pretty much using up the stockpile that people have already. Toners.
That's what it does.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Moving right along. New facility department vehicle. Thank you.
So one of the vans in our facilities fleet had a catastrophic failure of its fuel pump. Tried to word that less movie-esque, but that was really the best way to put it. We believe, and usually with a vehicle, this is a flag that if your fuel pump goes, you're in trouble for years to come. So we believe it's reached an age where there will be additional mechanical failures. This year, we have budgeted for one vehicle replacement. However, the board approved a vehicle purchase in 2017, but that vehicle was not obtained until 2018, so it was recorded as a 2018 response. So you all agreed to buy a vehicle in 2017, however,
It never happened.
it happened, it's just we
Late.
couldn't pay for it until we received it in 2018.
Understood.
So technically, we would be buying two vehicles in 2018. We are seeking board approval to purchase another vehicle this year, which would replace the van. The vendor would be DePaulo or Denoyer Chevrolet, which both were awarded a state contract, so it would fall in line with our policy. The cost would be no more than $37,500. This purchase would include trading a vehicle into the dealer, probably the one with the fuel pump.
Any questions? We can put a motion on the board on the table
So
first.
this is an additional budget item, so, are we looking at our capital fund, or are we we're looking at operations, maintenance and repair? Okay, and we've got the additional income of,
Lower salaries.
Well, not lower salaries. We have positions that took some time to fill, which created savings. We also are predicting a significant savings in the retirement system payment. So I am not nervous. I am more nervous about the board's charge of making sure the budget was spent than I am us going significantly over budget.
Is that why this is coming from operations instead of the capital fund?
Yes.
Who will be handling the purchase? Will it be Dan?
It's usually Dan and Michael, since
Okay.
they're that's kind of their fleet. Their guys drive it the most, so I think Michael has actually been handling it because Dan has been busy with other things.
And the model year of the current van is 2011?
And it's low mileage, but we all know city miles can sometimes be 3 times worse on a vehicle than
And is there any expectation about what the trading value might be?
new.
Okay.
We figured we'd give the highest possible range, but we'll be working for something much lower than that.
And do you have any idea what this fuel pump cost to replace?
I think it was
Sorry to put you on the spot. It's a hard question.
I think we have it.
well, we replaced it because we need the vehicle.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah, but I
of
think
course
it's
you
on
do.
the check register.
Yeah, I want to say 1,600, but I might be high.
1565.
Okay.
So it's an expensive fix. Okay.
Fuel pumps are not cheap.
So,
so what's the we've repaired it, so what's the issue with letting this thing go until it dies?
That it's going to break down or have a catastrophic failure when we're trying to get to a branch in the middle of the night to close up for a program or a after-hours meeting. That we need reliable vehicles, especially with the winter coming.
And there were more seats too.
Dan is also looking at a version of the van which will allow him to transport his facility staff when they decide they're going to bring 5 of the guys and ladies down to do the floors at Howe, or for even going to trainings.
There are multiple add-ons that go on them. It's not just a basic cargo van. Dan usually has like a list of stuff he wants added, and that's, the price looks rather extravagant, but that's the reason, is the additional equipment that's,
Ladder,
which we have a lot of experience in needing.
yes.
and you're confident that this will be within the budget that we, overall?
This will, without a doubt, be in the budget.
Can I have a motion to approve the purchase of the vehicle? We can talk about it more after we have the motion on the table.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mindy and Allison.
The model year of the other van, it was kind of very close to the same time.
They were
Was
both
it?
the same time.
They're both the same year.
Yep.
So we should
We
get
well,
ready.
and this is why we've scheduled one a year.
Okay,
So we'll be doing the same thing next year.
okay. And the mileage is approximately
It's
less
around
than 50?
No, I think it's over 50.
Over 50, okay. Thank you, I'm sorry to pepper you with so many
No,
questions.
it's okay.
Questions are good. Any other questions, concerns? Discussion? Yes.
I just came onto the facilities committee, so I'm not keen on what usually goes through that committee. But I certainly haven't had a chance to really get ahead for. Certainly haven't met with Dan. I don't know. I wouldn't object if we wanted to send this to the facilities committee for a review and a report out by the next board
And can you
I
just,
wouldn't object otherwise.
can you describe your concerns that you think needs to be addressed at this facilities meeting?
Sure, I just want to get a sense of what the general facilities management plan is and how these vehicles fit into it.
Perhaps that could be in charge of the facilities committee, but we could also let them have their van.
Sure, I guess they don't have a facilities committee, but that's fine too. I mean, I'm not trying to, be an obstructionist. I just think as long as I'm on the committee, I would prefer if the committee, fulfilled its charge. But I understand if there's extenuating circumstances.
So I spoke with the chair, but I don't know if you realized you were the chair at the time. So that might be where some of this confusion is. And that was the only agenda piece. So that's why we didn't have the meeting, because it was, do we really want to meet just to talk about a vehicle replacement? And then I asked, and not knowing that the chair didn't know she was the chair, hey, can we do this in the full board meeting? I would much rather have discussed this at a facilities committee meeting, but because we were at such a flux in new committee membership, I kind of feel that this needs to be addressed sooner than later.
All right, well, maybe, could you just review with us what our fleet is right now?
Excellent question, I was just gonna ask.
So we have 2 work trucks, and we have 3, Mary does the insurance, 2 vans. So 2 vans, 2 work trucks.
Yep.
And so the work trucks are pickup trucks?
Yes, one we purchased at the beginning of this year, one we purchased,
2016?
yes.
Yeah, and that's the one that we use for snow removal.
Yeah, we use both the
And
trucks
the
for
ones
snow
that- yeah.
removal.
And then 2 vans, and
Two
those are
vans.
the 2011?
The vans we got from the,
They're both 2011.
yeah, they're 2011. They're basically basic vans too.
I thought we had more than that, so that makes me think.
I can mention too, like we mentioned this alternate seating or the additional seating in advance too. We also have several cases when we do outreach that we need to get everybody, people there as well. So it's not just the facilities. It's getting, a lot of times we're having difficulty finding someplace for Bleecker to sit in a vehicle.
Do the pickup trucks have like crew cabs so you can drag more than?
Yes, so that was one thing that Dan was very smart in doing.
Right.
Is just saying, we have crew cabs so we can fit additional staff in them.
Yeah.
But those, that's Michael and Williams, that's the vehicles they use. And that's more going around doing repairs, doing snow removal, doing some basic landscaping. And the reason why they're pickups is so that we can fit the snow blowers in the back and the mowers when we do the mowing. So the vans are really used for the cleaning staff who go around from branch to branch and do cleaning.
Are vehicles part of the facilities 5-year plan?
They will be now. Since it falls within that budget, that makes the most amount of sense.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor?
Fine.
Okay. And that was everybody, right? I think so, yeah. Right. Summer reading program presentation. So, let's see. We can do it in 15 minutes?
It's at
How
least
many
a
minutes? I only have one sheet of paper, so okay.
15.
And it isn't even a presentation because we don't have any way to present here. We just have,
It's an oral presentation.
it's an oral presentation. So they're split up enough.
Lisa can handle it like
I just
story
kept
time.
mine so I could see what I had to say about stuff. Good evening.
as many of you know, last year's summer reading program was a summer of change from our past year.
I'm sorry. Could you just introduce yourself
Oh,
to
hey.
us, please?
I'm
Thank
Lisa
you.
Newman. I'm the head of youth services at the Washington Avenue branch. I'm the summer reading czar, pretty much. I make all the summer reading decisions with the committee, but then I get to be like, you're doing it wrong. Please do it right. Have your people do it right. Let's see. Summer of Change, that was last year. Bingo cards. All right, so this year, we built on last year's improvements, gracefully increasing our signups, raising our participation percentage, and offering an early literacy level that we had not had in quite a few years. All right, so I think that was from last year's presentation. I copied and pasted it, and then I looked, down below. Last year's numbers tell a story of kids who are reading. This year, we well exceeded our sign-up goal of 1,200 youth. So last year, I don't even think we had a goal last year, but we had 867 kids last year. Our goal this year was 1,200, and we had 1,499. The 1,665 includes the early literacy people. It's a rough estimate because we had a meeting earlier today where I found out there were 20 duplicate kids. So when you have 1,600 of anything, there's bound to be a margin of error. There you go. Okay. 1,040 kids, 459 teens. For the school age SRP, that was a 72% increase over last year. Our overall participation rate was a bit shy of our 50% goal at 46%. We designed our own reading records in-house to reflect our 10-hour goal. This year we had 440 youth reached the 10-hour goal compared to last year's 191. That is a 130% increase. So happy to say that. We also added a clear challenge goal of 40 more hours for a total of 50 hours. 122 youth completed this goal and earned the coveted I Read Past My Bedtime t-shirt that I hear adults want to buy, and everybody loved the shirt. That's the middle picture. Those are just 5 of the kids who got the shirt. This year's SRP committee sought donations from local businesses, Stewart's, Chipotle, Taco Bell, and NoHo Pizza to name the biggest donors. We were able to offer more experience prizes than last year. Another generous donation from the Friends enabled us to once again offer our high-quality APL branded prizes. This year we had yo-yos, water bottles, and sunglasses. And when we ran out of things, we used the backpacks from last year and the piggy banks. What was new? That's down below. North Albany had a very successful collaboration with the school district summer school educators. Over the course of the summer, they saw more than 430 kids at 62 sessions. They also hosted programs that were open to the public in the school gym, where 885 people saw a Pinocchio performance. I know, right? I was very surprised. Pine Hills hosted the city's Breveter Street Station number 10 fire engine. Over 100 people came to the branch to meet firefighters, see equipment, and hear stories. As Scott mentioned, Washington Avenue hosted the first Drag Queen Story Hour, where over 200 people were entertained with stories, songs, cool craft, and a dance party. Another fun event that was added this year was Ice Cream with the Mayor. 3 kids from each branch who completed at least 10 hours were invited to have ice cream at City Hall. The second page is just some fun facts. The top left-hand chart is a historical review of the years, how many kids total were registered, and as you can tell, we've gone from counting books to minutes to books to minutes to books to books and minutes. And this year, in the 12 years that I have recorded, We signed up the most kids and read, hot diggity, the most minutes ever, 631,560.
Lisa, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And, you know, aside from the obvious answer that you're fantastic at your job,
Thanks.
what would you attribute the massive jump in participation to? Like, what was done right this year, or righter?
Setting a clear goal for the 50 hours. Last year, we were just like, read 5 more hours, get a hat. If you want to read more, we didn't really have a clear challenge goal. We're talking about calling it a challenge, maybe, because that's what it is. It's like a challenge. Challenge you to read this amount of time. Here's some kind of lovely incentives. So, and also outreach and Pine Hills. I don't know. Pine Hills and North Albany, they really kicked it. Like, Pine Hills had the Rise Kids. They had the most signups. I didn't have enough room for everybody's signups, but Pine Hills, their goal was in the 250 range, and they had 360. And of, you know, all the kids that sign up, we're almost at half bringing back sheets and recording any amount of reading. But we're also increasing the amount of kids who return more than once to tell us that they have read more. The second chart here, this is Arbor Hills teen signups. They had 58 kids teen sign up, so that's 6th grade and up. Of the 58 kids, 20 of them read. All 20 of them read for 10 hours. When I was sorting the sheet, I was like, that can't be right, because every other sheet, like, it tapers off, especially for the teens. So, I don't know what Arbor Hill did, but every kid who was reading over there, who was in 6th grade and up, read the whole thing. And they had 7 kids who got to 50 hours. 4 of them were teenagers. So I think it's talking to kids and talking it up.
We also, through the Albany Promise, created new avenues of communication with students, using the school district to do SNN announcements about summer reading, and also the Albany Housing Authority. I feel like that got a lot of traction. It got us on a lot of people's radars.
Also email. This year I sent emails, like the second weekend I was like, oh, we haven't seen you. What's going on? Oh, yeah, like every 2 weeks I was emailing kids who either hadn't checked in or only checked in once, and I'm like, oh, hey, come back. And that was probably part of it too.
I walked my classes over to Pine Hills and told them they needed to sign up.
So school outreach.
Right. Yeah, school outreach. We got in all of the schools this year. We were invited, even in the middle of the summer, to talk to charter schools, to kids who were in the summer programs there. So yeah.
Did the chalk bombing at schools. We
Yes.
had the weaker at drop off.
Yep, at drop off last week of school.
How many years have you been involved in summer reading? I mean, coordinating it?
2, I guess. And then back a few years ago, I was on the committee when I was at Washington Avenue before, but I wasn't the head of the committee.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
This is great news.
Questions and comments from this side of the table?
This is amazing.
Thanks. I don't think about it much, but I was like, when I look at the thing from Arbor Hill, I was like, wow, that was pretty cool.
So, I was in the library yesterday when you were working on this.
Yes.
And I got to hear how excited you were about all the signups.
Yeah. I just.
It was awesome.
Like while you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh, you know, the data, data, make sure you're putting in the birthdays, doing this, doing that. But then when you're sorting it and you're looking at it, it's like, oh, that's
The
cool.
results, yeah.
Yes, and I was
So,
counting up how many kids had done 10 hours the year before versus this year, and that was kind of exciting.
It is. And were the goals, did you have goals per branch in the past, or is that a new thing?
No, that was new too, like
Okay.
sign up goals. Yeah, that was the whole 12, we wanted to get to 1,200, and we did like a 20% increase for everybody, I think. So, yeah.
So are we going to hear the results from
The kids in the school have to take the tests before
right.
we can.
So that'll be really interesting to see if there's
Yeah,
a
this year-
correlation.
We increased the sample size
Yeah.
by a significant amount.
So
too.
they're excited to see what the outcome's gonna be.
Yeah, very exciting. Wouldn't that be great if bump that number, you know?
Is it correlation?
I think your personal outreach to people is probably what makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, we were signing people up we did the movie nights this year.
Mhm.
We were signing up and pre-registering people too.
It was a thing this summer.
Right.
It was a thing.
It was a thing this summer.
And do you think it was a thing because you made it your thing, or was the stuff from state ed helpful or not?
Shouldn't be, I forgot the camera's on.
I think we had more staff buy-in.
Yeah, because you made it your own?
Yeah.
Yes.
The staff from, it wasn't just the librarians who bought into it, some of the branches, the back.
I was waiting for Matthew and Sarah to finish writing. Take your time. We could have rolled through a couple more things that aren't gonna take any time. So, if you're done, public comment, seeing no members of the public present, we'll skip that. Executive session, I'm not aware of a need for that. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Jenna, thank you. And Alyssa, thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you at How next month.